Welcome to the Immigrant Education Collaborative podcast. Today I have a special guest, a lady that I'm extremely fond of, Miss Lashanda Sanguinetti. Hey, Lashanda.
Hi, how's it going, Derek? I'm good to be
Very,
here.
very good, very good. So we're going to have a lighthearted conversation. So the reason I invited you on is because I know you are a mother of two sons.
Uh-huh.
You were born in Jamaica, raised in Jamaica, but you're raising two sons in America. So I wanted to have a conversation with you about sort of the challenges, your experience, first of all,
Hmm.
of, raising two boys in an American education system, a system that like a K through 12 system, you know what I mean,
Right.
from starting to the end of high school that you may not have experienced, and what
Hmm.
has your experience been like for you? So that's kind of the framing of the conversation I want to have.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell me, what's it been like?
It has been rough navigating the system because my first son came when he was around 14. He was coming
Mm,
from ninth grade in Jamaica. So it
okay.
was a whole new education system. When we came here, I wasn't even sure of how to go about applying to high schools. I didn't know about the lottery at first. I thought, you could just go to a school, find out the information, do an application, submit
Mm-hmm.
like a report card from my country, and then that
Mm-hmm.
would start the process. But I was told, I have to do a lottery.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit new to me. It was also a bit difficult because not knowing the school territory, like
Mm-hmm.
where the schools are located, how to go about choosing schools, because it would be different from here than back home in
Right.
Jamaica. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a little difficult there, but we got help through persons from the school that we met, the first school that I went to for my son. The
Mm-hmm.
teacher there, she was good. She was telling me about the lottery system, how am I
Mm-hmm.
to go about applying,
Mm-hmm.
choosing school, looking up schools on the internet, like reading about the school, their location, what they
Mm-hmm.
offer also in terms of academics, because you need to, make a good choice in terms of what your
Mm-hmm.
child is interested in as well.
Yeah.
So it was a bit rough navigating the system.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good. And it's good that a lot of the recurring themes in these conversations we have is usually folks running into people who are able to help guide them in a way. And
Right.
I love to hear those stories, right? Because there's always someone somewhere along the line that you run into that helps you
Hmm.
with the process. So you're getting up to speed, right? Your son is 14, so you have to get up to speed quickly because you're in America and
Right.
he's in high school.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what was that like for him?
It was a bit rough, changing over, and it's a different teaching style as well from,
Hmm.
how things are done here, how they
Hmm.
program the classes. So he had to do like a 360 change per se, getting
Hmm.
adjusted to the school hours here. In terms of transportation as well, it's
Hmm.
different with the buses and the trains, because back at home in Jamaica, we just do like bus or you take a taxi straight. We don't have a train system
Hmm.
where we would use any train. So he had to
Gotcha.
adjust to taking the train, learning the route too, because that was difficult because we are from Jamaica. We don't know the routes here. We don't know anything.
Hmm.
So learning transportation system as well, that was a bit challenging. So he
Yeah.
had to do a full adjustment.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it took him
Yeah.
not too long because he's a good he's a smart boy, so he was
Yeah.
able to navigate quickly. But we were it based some challenges getting to know things, how things work here.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a little tough, but we got through it.
Okay. No, that's awesome. And it's
Hmm.
interesting what you said. You talked about, the transportation, right, to and from school,
Right.
right? And a conversation I had earlier with Willaire, he brought this up and he made the point that a lot of times for like immigrant parents, they
Uh-huh.
may not realize that their children have to navigate like three spaces, right? So it's like
Right.
there's life at home, there's life at school,
Hmm.
but then there's also this life that they have to navigate in between home and school, which
School,
is some people call it this
transportation.
right, or some people call
Yeah.
it the streets or
Hmm.
life. You know
Right.
what I mean? And especially
Yeah.
having, a son in an urban area, let's just put it
Hmm.
that way, in a major, metropolitan urban area, like they're just
Right.
things that, sons and daughters that they'll encounter,
Hmm.
right? From home to school, back and forth. So were those things that you were like how prepared were you for that? Like
Concern
coming from
about.
Jamaica? Yeah.
But I was pretty much concerned because in terms of safety, we heard
Hmm.
stories about people being pushed onto the track. That was a little
Hmm.
worrying for me because I couldn't be
Yeah.
there all the time to take him.
Right.
I had to work. So,
Hmm.
we would have talks to say, okay, when you go down, just stay on the platform. Don't go to the front until the train has fully stopped. And,
Hmm.
just be aware of your surrounding. If you see somebody approaching you, try to walk away. Look for a Metropolitan Police because sometimes they are down there, to assist with kids. So if
Yeah.
anybody's trying to approach you, just walk fast off and try to get help to a
Yeah.
metropolitan or even the supervisors that work in the metro unit as well. So yeah, that was a bit rough because I was scared for him. That's a new
Yeah.
realm per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but he managed very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, again, those are just some of the things that you may not think about as you're
Hmm.
transitioning. And, I think especially as parents, right? Like being tuned into your child, especially that age, of adolescence, 14, 15, they're
Hmm.
kind of coming into their own. And especially a boy and his mom, a boy is not necessarily gonna open up to his mom about, maybe difficult things
Things
because,
right.
that's kind of sensitive. So it's good that you were on top of that and you made sure that that he was safe because
Yeah.
that's a concern that can be overlooked easily.
Easily. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how old is your youngest son at the time when your oldest son is starting high
When he
school
came
here?
here. At the time, Dakari was 7. He
Okay.
came shortly after. And
Okay.
starting off in school, he had a little difficulty because he was used to our teaching back home. So the changes, even in math, like the way how they do the calculation was a whole different
Right.
aspect of teaching that he had to
Yeah.
grasp at an earlier age because he came here when
Right.
he was 7. He's
Mm-hmm.
14 now. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a little more challenging and how they do their grading system
Mm-hmm.
homework assignments back home, there's not a lot of teaching per se when I say like being in front of a chalkboard, demonstrating stuff. Most times
Mm-hmm.
it's like just talking, reading from a book. So he had to adjust real quick to
Mm-hmm.
that aspect because we are used to more of a display approach in terms of teaching. Like if you're working a
Mm-hmm.
problem, you would go on the board, work from top to bottom, but sometimes, well, I don't know if it was teachers' teaching
Mm-hmm.
style, but they would probably not do so much demonstration in terms
Yeah.
of like a step-to-step aspect. So that was a little bit challenging for him, but
Yeah.
he's still learning and grasping as he goes along.
Yeah. And it is a transition, right? Because
Yeah,
again, they're transitioning to a different, learning style,
right.
right? Different culture. It's a whole slew of transitions that they have to make, right? And I
Right.
think, yeah, and I think as parents, it's something just to be mindful for because you're taking a kid out of one culture and then
And put
kind
him
of,
in, yeah. So
yeah, you're
he
just
felt
dropping
like
them into another one.
uprooted.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really good that you were sensitive and attentive to that to help,
Uh-huh.
to help him transition. So talk to me about like those first like parent teacher conferences, like going in, like how were you able to sort of partner with the teachers to make sure that your boys were getting the support that they need? You know what I mean? Especially someone who didn't go through the system yourself.
Right. I try to be a very active parent, staying
Hmm.
on top of notifications when there were PTA meetings. So I'd always try to be present,
Hmm.
learn about what's happening in school, learn about my child's performance, what are the resources available that I can help him at home. They would always suggest like different sites that they use. I don't remember the names right now, but
Hmm.
they would, offer me different sites. I can do a follow-up. There's an Aspen as well where you
Hmm.
can log in to monitor your child's grades. So that was a good thing because that was different. In Jamaica, we don't have like a Aspen login system. You would get
Right.
report cards on a term basis and then you would see
Hmm.
what's going on. But you could also meet with teachers but having a login system, you could at least see exactly for this term, okay, this is what's going on. And then you could see a pattern if your child is improving, what needs to
Hmm.
be worked on. So I always try to involve myself in the PTAs, engaging with teachers, see what I could do as a parent, how my
Hmm.
child is going on in school, and just be up to date with what's going on
Yeah.
school-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. And so for you also, there's 24 hours in a day. You're raising
Hmm.
two boys, and then you have your life and your things. You're working, you're going to school, you're doing your thing. So
Hmm.
what sort of framework and what sort of structure were you able to implement? And and be flexible with, right? Because as they evolve, you
Hmm.
kind of have to give some flexibility to the structure that you put in place. So what type of like structure did you put in place so that all three of you could kind of, get what you need and be
Right.
supported in the ways that you needed?
We tried to have a timetable system, so we would set like when we come home, what time would be like homework time, reading
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
go through what assignments are to be turned in, what needed to be worked on. So we had to basically have a time management system. We would try to
Nice.
do all assignments. And also for myself, when I started going to school for my phlebotomy
Mm-hmm.
certification, that was a little challenging because having boys to raise, take care of the household and
Mm-hmm.
also study for myself. Time
Mm-hmm.
management was a big part of our setting. So we
Mm-hmm.
had to do a lot in terms of time management and having like a schedule, how we
Mm-hmm.
would get things done. So it was more
Mm-hmm.
of a time management basis and
Yeah.
spending time together as well, because that's
Nice. Nice.
important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's good to hear you say that. So you kind of had a system. They would come
Hmm.
home. This is when you would do your homework. This is when we would maybe do some reading. This is when we would
Hmm.
do like our other activities. So it's good that you were deliberate and intentional about putting that in place. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because I'm sure that helped them as they were transitioning from one system into
To
another
another, right.
to have the the structure that they needed so they know,
Yes.
okay, this is the time for us to do this and that's the time for us to do that. So what were some of the biggest challenges you would say that you faced, right? We talked about it earlier about how some things are different in Jamaica versus here in the US, but what were some of like the biggest challenges that you faced and and eventually you overcame them, but what were
Mhm.
some of the biggest challenges adjusting to the education system where you were like, okay, this is different.
I think not knowing how to approach it at first, because when we came, we were like, okay, is there a website? How do we get information? We had to just start Googling stuff, how to
Hmm.
apply for high schools. So that was a bit challenging because we didn't know exactly where to start per se. So the internet
Hmm.
was our first place to
Hmm.
search, getting school ideas in terms of our geographic location, where are the schools located. And
Hmm.
then from there, I had to visit a school. I met with one of the teachers. She was very helpful in terms of like, okay, this is how it works. You have to do a lottery. You can't just go to a school and
Hmm.
get registered. Doesn't work like that. So we had to
Yeah.
do a lottery system. So that was very new to me. That was a little challenging doing a lottery because I wasn't used to doing a lottery system. And then you'd have
Hmm.
to apply online.
Hmm.
Also writing, they had some schools would require like an essay type application. So that was a
Yep.
little challenging as well. Because you
Yeah.
would normally be at the school writing the essay on spot. So writing
Hmm.
it, not
Yeah.
in the presence, but online, that was a little challenging. Like, okay, where do we start? Some of it was like a free flowing topic,
Hmm.
just to like come up with something and write on based on sometimes it was on experience or
Yeah.
life issues. But yeah, that was challenging. The
Okay.
lottery system was a little difficult for me.
Yeah. So no, I think that's really it's really important, right? Because
Hmm.
and you going through that process and understanding sort of like um there's some decisions that you need to make, right? In terms
Right.
of as your kid, as especially for high school, right?
Hmm.
Like which school is the best fit? Because my favorite word is alignment, right? It's trying
Right.
to align your child with the best opportunity that sort of, goes in the best way with what they enjoy doing, right?
Right.
So different high schools may offer different
Things.
specialties,
Right.
right? And then so it's really good as a parent for you to at least be in tune to that, so you're not just enrolling your kid just anywhere, you know what I mean, into
Right.
like the easier school, and then your kid gets there and it's not a good fit for them.
Right. Because with my oldest son, he is a hands-on person. He likes
Mm-hmm.
fixing things.
Mm-hmm.
So he was interested in like doing engineering. So we had to do a research and we came
Mm-hmm.
up with Phelps. Phelps was a really
Mm-hmm.
good school. They have an engineering program there. They have a robotics program. So that's the high
Mm-hmm.
school he went. And he was able to get a scholarship to go to University of Massachusetts in Lowell, where he did his
Mm-hmm.
engineering. So he now has a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So we had to do a research as, okay, we know he likes this. We know he's good at his hands. He likes fixing things,
Mm-hmm.
taking stuff apart, putting it back together. So we came up with Phelps, which was
Yeah.
a very good school, and I really like Phelps High School. So shout out to Phelps.
Shout out to Phelps. No, no. And I think and this and that's really where I was going with this, right? And I think
Uh-huh.
for your oldest son, that alignment was there, but it was good foresight on your hand
Right.
to be aware, like, listen, I gotta find something that's a good fit for him.
Yeah.
Because he you might not have gotten the same result had he gone to a different high
In
school
school. Right.
that didn't have, that didn't cater to, what he enjoys doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think this because all schools are not alike. Just like
Right.
yeah, you have two sons. They're not identical. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're still very different people. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So where's your youngest? Is your youngest son at Phelps also?
No, no, he's now at MacArthur High School.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's
yeah.
aligned with MacArthur. He
Exactly.
is looking to do like interior designing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he
Yeah.
chose MacArthur. We did our research. It's a relatively new school. I think they
Mm-hmm.
opened in I don't remember if it's 2007, no, 2017 or 16.
Yeah.
It's
It's very
relatively
recent.
new,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we did our research. They have
Yeah.
a good academic program, so we thought that was a good place to
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
And how does he like it?
Oh, he likes it very well. He's
Yeah.
doing really good.
Yeah. And I think that's
Yeah.
the point, right? The point is, a lot of times it'd be convenient to be like, okay, I know Phelps, I know what they do at Phelps, go to Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you're conscious of, okay, I have two sons, but they have different
Different.
interests. So
Right.
let me try to figure out, the school that, sort of complements his interests. And
Yeah.
also, he'll be happy because, where MacArthur is, that's the hike. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's on the west side of the city, you
Side.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got to go all the way over to Georgetown, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Almost into Virginia, right on the Potomac River is where he
River.
is. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So, but kudos to you as a parent for recognizing that, listen, what worked for the oldest one, I don't have to try to force the younger one to
It's
do
one
exactly the
there.
same. You know what
Right.
I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's where my other question was coming is like, in what areas, and you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask you the
Mm-hmm.
question. In which areas, have you had to sort of personalize like each of your sons, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
you did that with high school, and they have different interests. So what are
Yes.
some other things that you would pick up on as a mom early and say, listen, this worked for the oldest one, it's not going to work for the youngest one. Like what are some of those things that you picked up on?
Like I see for my youngest son, his learning style is a bit different from my oldest
Mm,
son. My oldest son is more like hands-on,
mm-hmm,
more in depth. He's more not so much hands-on, a
mm-hmm,
little more um what would I say no, smooth in
mm-hmm.
terms of how he does things,
Yeah.
a little more on a low tune per se.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I had to take that in consideration. And I was thinking of Phelps, but then I had to have a discussion with him, like, what are your interests? Do you think going to Phelps, do you want to do like engineering? What are your interests? He's like, I don't really want to go to Phelps. He's
Yeah.
into more of like interior design, or
Mm-hmm.
he was like, I may even change later down, but he doesn't see himself really wanting to go to Phelps
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the engineering aspect or the robotics aspect of things. So we
Yeah.
did some research and then we came up with MacArthur. They have a good program. So I said, all right, let's start there
Absolutely.
and then we'll see, where it
Yeah.
leads us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
then also just it gives him an opportunity to see just like the whole city when going
Uh-huh.
to MacArthur. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's exposed to pretty much everyone. You know what I mean? It's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a very diverse school. Everyone is in that school. So,
Yeah.
I think that helps. I think what's interesting in what you said, you talked about the learning style, right? They have different
Mm-hmm.
learning styles. And
Styles.
again, I think this is really important for parents to understand, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just sign your kid up to send them to school, but
Right.
understand how does your child learn best, right?
Yes.
Because some
Mm-hmm.
kids there's some kids who can sit and read a book, and other kids need to watch a video. Other kids
Yes.
need to read a book and listen to it. Other kids need to be, they're more tactile. They need to be hands-on.
Right.
So I love that you're so in tuned with your boys, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
just like, all right, you're not rigid. You're not just like, all right, everybody, one size fits all, everybody do this.
Right.
Where does that come from? Where does that awareness come from in your mothering?
I think I got it from my parents because they would never force us to follow each other's footsteps. Like we had
Hmm.
our own interests, so they would always sit down and have discussions like, okay, what do you like?
Hmm.
For me, I like first. in Jamaica, I started on the business aspect of things, and then I
Hmm.
got more in tuned into the medical side. So
Hmm.
I said, okay, when I come here, I'm not gonna try and pursue my business aspect because when I came here, I had uh um a bachelor's in business administration because I
Hmm.
was a company secretary in Jamaica. But when I
Hmm.
came here, I'm like, let me just try the medical field because, it started to intrigue me shortly before coming here because I was thinking
Hmm.
of, going back to school to do something in the medical field. But when I
Hmm.
came here, I'm like, all right, let me just, transfer over and see this
Hmm.
side of things. So I think I got that from my parents where they would say, don't try to follow each other, follow what you're interested in, because that's where you'll have your happiness. So I think,
Hmm.
that's where I got that
Yeah.
from my parents.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's good. And I think it's a good habit
Hmm.
to pass on to your kids because then you see it gives them a chance to really explore their interests. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And it gives them a chance, it's very freeing because then they can live a life where they feel like, hey, I'm being supported with what I enjoy versus
Right.
feeling the pressure of let me do this because this is what I think is
Hmm.
expected of me
Me.
from
Right.
from the adults in my life. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I
Yeah.
love to hear that. So in terms of your boys, right? Let's go back to like career exploration and career alignment. Like your oldest son is an engineer, he's a mechanical engineer
Hmm.
major, graduated from University of Massachusetts Lowell. So when you understood early that he was hands-on, that he was into engineering, he went to Phelps, what are some things you think that helped to like confirm and sort of strengthen that interest, which you
Hmm.
think allowed him to go on and have the success that he had? Like, what were some things that he did, like during high school? Like, was he involved in clubs? Did he do like robotics competition? Did he have a mentor? Like, what are some things that he was engaged in that you feel like looking back, you could say, okay, all these things were stepping stones to help him get to where he
To
got to.
Right. And I can take it even back when he was smaller. As
Mm-hmm.
a child, he used to like love to play with hammers, like tools,
Mm,
screwdrivers.
mm,
He would
mm,
take those stuff and try to be pulling things. So, in
mm-hmm,
my head from earlier, I'm like, okay, maybe he's gonna be, like a hands-on person with a skill or something. So when we
mm-hmm,
came here, finding out about Phelps, what they offered, he immediately signed up for their robotics team. He was
mm-hmm,
the I think the president for the robotics team, they had a car. He worked on the electric car.
mm-hmm.
Those things brought him joy. And also myself, knowing that he's doing something that he likes, he
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and that was his passion.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So imagine him, just finding your thing that early, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, as a teenager, and then being able to just continue to build on it.
Build on it, right.
And so in 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 light of that, right, this is what I say all the time to parents and to also like the students I work with.
Uh-huh.
If you think about athletes and you think about entertainers, right? Athletes and entertainers, they get a lot of feedback early,
Yeah.
right? They get feedback early. If you're a soccer player, you get feedback early,
Hmm.
right? So Leon Bailey, who I'm sure you know who Leon Bailey is. Leon
Yeah.
Bailey, playing soccer as a youngster, like you can see early that Leon Bailey had the potential
To do
to be
great.
a pro, to
Yeah.
do great things,
Right.
right?
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. For a child who has all A's at 12 or all A's at 11, it's hard to really see, okay, what do all these A's, what are they going to translate into
Translate
down the
to
road, right?
right.
But
Right.
for an athlete or for someone in the arts, someone who paints, someone who plays the piano, they get a lot of feedback early because
Right.
they can test themselves against other professionals to see kind
Right.
of where they are. And if
Right.
as a 12-year-old, if Leon Bailey's out playing against 17, 18, 19-year-olds and he's holding his own, then he's like, okay,
Hmm.
I have a chance to do this. But
Right.
usually as a 12-year-old, you're just in class with other 12-year-olds, right?
Right.
You're only being compared to other 12-year-olds, so you're not really sure, am I getting all A's because I have a good memory, or am I getting
Right.
all A's because I truly love all these subjects, right?
Right.
So I'm relating that to your son, your oldest, to say at an early age his interest was confirmed, it was affirmed, and
Hmm.
then he was able to build on
To
that.
build on it, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
what are your
that's
thoughts around
sometimes
that?
I'm really happy that he was able to align with what he liked from early because sometimes we go through life getting older and we're still not sure, okay, what am I doing? What do I really like? So finding out
Hmm.
early what you like is always a plus, always good to help build on it so you could just go straight into that career path instead of taking
Yeah.
up something else and then retracting and then starting again to find out what you really like.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was very happy that it worked out that way for him.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I love that. And then for your younger son coming along, like he's being encouraged and supported to
Hmm.
pursue his interests also.
Right,
You know what I
because
mean?
he has a thing for like interior design. Like he tries to put things together. Like when
Hmm.
I'm buying simple things, he'd be like, no, mom, try this one because this goes with this. So I'm like, okay, and
Yeah,
I'm giving him that opportunity to explore so he could
yeah,
see, okay, what it's like putting things together, color coordination. So yeah,
yeah,
it's still young for him,
yeah,
but we're working around it to see where we would
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I love
yeah.
that. I love that. And I think especially in this area in DC, most of the associations are here, right? So
Uh-huh.
like the American Interior Design Association is headquartered in DC. So, you could
Yes.
reach out to them, get mentors, you can go to their conferences. Like it's really good to just expose kids to the things that they're already interested in.
Right.
And if they see that this is truly what I want to commit to, it just gives them, the confidence and
Right.
also just the grounding to know that
Mm-hmm.
hey, they can exhale and say, I found my thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And then
Which
they're
is
able to develop and build on it.
yes, and which
Yeah.
is what happens. That happens with athletes, and it happens with artists early,
Right.
right? Like when Beyonce's 12, Beyonce's competing in talent
And she
shows,
was
and she
singing.
see it, yeah, and she's
Right.
like, hey, I got a chance to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you see it easily in sports and you see it easily in entertainment and in the arts, but it's really difficult to see it when you're just looking at just a report card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what is this report card going to translate into?
Too.
And
Right.
and then you get into a lot of gray areas because a lot of times when kids do well in school,
Mm-hmm.
they start internalizing and thinking that they need to do what they think other people think they should do,
Right.
right? Versus us giving them the chance to freely explore and test things out early to see what they truly
What they
enjoy.
truly like. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So I
believe in
love
that.
yeah, man. So I love what you're doing with them. So what are some things that you learned along the way in navigating the system? Because you had to get up to speed really quickly. You know what I
Really
mean?
quick.
You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean? It was like sink or swim, but you did. You navigated this thing, like a boss. But what are some of the things that you learned, especially with your oldest son, that you
Mm-hmm.
were you were able to like recalibrate quickly to make sure that you can avert that, any danger with your younger one? What were some things that stand out to you?
With the education system, just understanding how it works. As I
Hmm.
said before, with the lottery, it was a little bit confusing there, but we kind of
Hmm.
managed how, figure it out.
Hmm.
Calling, there's a hotline with the lottery system, so they were very helpful in terms of giving me directives,
Hmm.
research in schools. So it's all about doing research in terms of like the schools they're going to choose. What do they offer? Are they offering subjects your child is interested in? As I said, for my oldest, he was hands-on. He liked engineering, he
Hmm.
gravitated towards mechanical engineering. So we were able
Hmm.
to pinpoint going to Phelps right on early instead of
Hmm.
sending him to another school where there were less aspects of engineering. We could have
Absolutely.
done that earlier. So just
Yeah.
knowing what your child is interested in to navigate the
Yeah.
system to see what school to choose, that would
Yeah.
be a good help. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
something that helped me with my first son, so I know what to do now with my second son
Yeah.
in terms of navigating the system, like the
Yeah.
schools and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, that's beautiful. And that's it seems like common sense and it seems simple, but
Hmm.
it's often overlooked. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because in the rush, especially for immigrant parents, right? In the rush of trying to, hold everything together, you got people back
Hmm.
home that you got to tend to. You're tending to things here. You're trying to get your life together.
Right.
It makes sense to just send the kid to the neighborhood school,
Tool.
right?
Right.
But yeah, but sometimes the school that's convenient
Hmm.
and it may not that school may not have the offerings that align with your kid's interests. You know
Kids.
what I mean? So
Right.
I love the fact that that was something that you honed in on early
Yeah.
and then you stuck with it and then also you're flexible enough to have two sons where you're like,
Hmm.
okay, one size does not fit all,
Oh,
right?
right.
Like
Definitely not.
everybody has to walk their own path. So I love
Yeah.
that. So what advice would you share with other parents, like especially immigrant parents who didn't go through the K through 12 system in America, went
Hmm.
to high school or went to college in another country and then moved here, but then they're raising, young children in this system. What would you say? What are like some things that you think they need to think about and try to get as right as possible?
As it relates to education, just try and do a
Mm-hmm.
proper research, find out
Mm-hmm.
what your child is interested in, do research on schools. As you said before, not just put them in the nearest school because that may not work for your child's interest. So
Mm-hmm.
always just do research, find out what your child's interest is and the schools that offers the subjects that align with what your child is trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
also
love.
reaching out to local authorities. I think you have the libraries do give out pamphlets on like how to enroll in schools, the lottery
Mm-hmm.
system. So yeah, just reaching out to your local library, they will have a lot of information as well.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. This is more of a specific question
Hmm.
about and this actually works perfectly since your youngest son is a he's a ninth grader.
Yes.
He's a ninth grader, right? Okay. So this works perfectly, right? So for your oldest son, that your oldest son had to take the SATs, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay. All right. So now you have your younger son who, depending on what he wants to do and depending on
Hmm.
where he wants to go after high school, he may or may not have to take the SATs. But how did you prepare for the SATs with your oldest son? Like when did that show up on your radar? Because if he gets here in ninth grade, like the clock is ticking, right?
Right.
To really like focus on that you got to get up to speed on that because
Hmm.
you're like, okay, and then he has to get up to speed on that. So talk to me about preparing him for the SATs and sort of what you learned during that experience that you can now pass on to your younger son.
Um, I had to talk to most of the teachers, like,
Hmm.
how do we prepare for the SAT? Because we coming in such a short time. So they were
Hmm.
like practice doing papers. He would
Hmm.
sometimes stay back at school, do extra courses, I mean extra classes, trying to
Hmm.
get up to speed,
Hmm.
answering most, a lot of questions to build
Hmm.
the knowledge base in terms
Hmm.
of, passing the SAT. So we had to
Hmm.
spend a lot of time on extra time just going over materials and trying
Hmm.
to catch up to be above speed per se. So a lot
Gotcha,
of the
gotcha.
teachers were working with us on, practice papers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you bootstrapped it.
Yes. So we had to do a lot of extra time getting work
Yeah.
in, just doing practice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, this is the reason I have this conversation, right? Is because something like the SAT,
Mm-hmm.
it's we could talk about the SAT for hours, right?
Hours. Yep.
But here's the thing with the SAT. Like there's some colleges that don't require the SAT, but for
Mm-hmm.
the vast majority of colleges, you have to supply your SAT scores. Some of them will say it's optional, right?
Mm-hmm.
But usually the SAT is just something that's is part of the K through 12 system in America, right? You should
Right.
expect that, okay, you got to take the SAT or you got to take the ACT,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is something inevitably you're going to run into. So if you know it's coming down the road, you need to prepare for it, right?
Right.
And in your case, like, your son got here in the ninth grade, which is like the clock is ticking. He's got to get
Sticking.
ready for it, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll hire a tutor or they'll
Mm-hmm.
enroll their child in a SAT prep program,
Right.
right? And those are a couple ways. Or some people just bootstrap it like yourself, and they'll just buy the material and just study on your own. Go to Khan Academy, and prepare that way. So there are a lot of different ways to prepare for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whether you prepare or not, the time is going to come when your kid is going to have to take the
Take
SAT
it.
more than likely, right?
Right.
So how you prepare, right, is going to reveal whether you are prepared or it's
Or
going
where
to
you weren't
expose
prepared.
or it's
Right.
going to it's going to expose you that you weren't prepared. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I
Yes.
feel, in your situation, your oldest son was able to get over that hurdle, and
Mm-hmm.
that gave you the experience to now prepare your younger son,
Right.
should he have to take the SAT, depending on which path he chooses. But
Right.
again, these are just things that, as you're coming here, you're looking for housing, you're looking for employment, you're looking for schools, you're all this stuff you're thinking about. Then you get your
Right.
son in school, and you're like, okay, we got a little system. When you come home from school, you boom, boom, boom. Then now stuff just starts coming down. 10th grade, okay, boom. Here's the 10th grade checklist. 11th grade, here's the 11th grade
Mm-hmm.
checklist. And oh, by the way, you got PSATs, you got SATs,
Right.
right? So these are all things that, parents, who have not gone through the system, have to also get up to speed on,
Lead.
right? It's like,
Right.
how do we prepare, right? Because other people are preparing, right?
Right.
And other people sometimes have gone through the system, so they know when to start preparing and how to prepare,
Right.
right? And also how to leverage their resources to prepare. So I'm glad that you were able to get over that hurdle with your first son. So now you have the experience to actually, know how to help your younger son out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good that I'm not thrown in the water as I was before. I know, the different channels that
Yeah.
I can utilize to,
Yeah.
prepare him for the SAT. So that has really helped me to, know what to do now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is crucial. And so I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to have this conversation with me. I have these conversations every day.
Hmm.
Right? I could talk about this stuff all day, every day, because this is what I love to do. But I love the fact that a lot of what I believe in, you essentially just follow the blueprint that I believe in, right? Which is
Right.
alignment, right? Which is finding
Right.
out what are you interested in and make sure you align that with the things that you do to
Right.
help you get to your ultimate goal. And you've done that magnificently with both of your boys, you
Thank
know what I
you.
mean? In a short amount of time. You
Time.
know what I mean?
Right.
This is
Uh-huh.
you know,
I
like
gotta
record
hit, I
speed.
hit
Yeah,
ground running
man.
when I
Yeah,
came.
man. Like Usain Bolt, man. You out of the blocks and it was a fast. And so how does it feel? Like, to it's almost like trial by fire, but you
Hmm.
can actually see, man, like when you look back at it, you can say, I'm sure you remember his first day of school, your
I
first day of
know.
probably the
Yeah.
first day that he had to ride the train or the bus to school by himself, and you were
Hmm.
probably just like, make sure you call me when you get there.
Yep.
And then
That's
now,
exactly how I was.
yeah, you know what I mean? So how do
Yeah.
you feel? Because it was a mad rush, a mad dash to get here, and
Hmm.
again, it was done quickly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So how do you feel, and how confident are you, based on the experience, especially with your oldest son, and in terms of where your younger son is and where you are in the
Yeah.
process?
I'm a lot more confident now, especially with the transportation system, because I was so scared of my boys taking the train. But my
Yeah,
oldest son now, it's like a breeze, we know how
yeah,
to navigate it. I brought him to the train station, taught him how to read the directions, read the
mm-hmm,
map, because there's a map that you can get, and also on the train, there's a map on the side. So,
mm-hmm,
he's very good now at reading the nav in terms of navigating the stops,
mm-hmm,
and what train to
yeah,
take, and in terms of direction, because when you go underground, sometime for us we
yeah,
were confused. Okay, which side should we go on? Is it this side to go this
yeah,
way? Is it this side to
yeah,
go that
yeah,
way?
yeah, yeah,
So now, we understand it a lot better, and he's doing
yeah,
so much better now. He's even taking the train and the bus to school, my
yeah,
youngest. So he's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
So
She's
he's
got it,
doing
man.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So, Lashanda, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it, and actually, I'm hoping down the road, man, to interview your older son.
Oh
So
yeah, that would be
we'll talk
awesome.
we'll talk more about that offline, just to hear his perspective. And thank you for sharing your story, because I feel like stories like this, people need to hear this story, right? They need to
Yeah.
hear and see someone who looks like them, someone with a similar background, who's
Mm-hmm.
been through something that they've gone through or that they're going through, because it's little nuggets that people are going to get, that
Right.
even you
That
and
can
I
help
missed as we're
them.
talking. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
So I
was a
appreciate
pleasure
you.
to share my
Yeah.
story.
Thank you so much.
And
It
thank you
only
for having me.
it only took us 7 years to get here.
I know, right? We made
We made
it.
it. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you too. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.